Yeah,
Ooh.
I'm gonna keep switching up. Like I think I like this. Like last time I'm here, I'm gonna just let. That's a good idea. I'm gonna let like
Every
the
time?
guests decide where they want to sit.
It's like you're just gonna pick the good side.
Yeah, probably. Both my sides are great.
I knew you were gonna say that. I was waiting for that. It's mainly a women's thing. Even though I know some men that do have that.
Like a side?
Yeah, some men that prefer in photos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen some dudes that are like that. I don't mind. Yeah.
Well, I know. Performer. So, Eddie, all around, 360.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming. We always have great conversations. So
We do.
this is what it's going to be about. So we actually were on the phone yesterday deciding what we were going to talk about. And
yeah, we needed to find a narrative. Otherwise, we're going to bounce all over the damn place.
Yeah, for sure. Not well, sort of. I mean, I feel like we always have pretty good conversations all around, even when we're not recording. So
I know. I agree.
So yeah, we were talking about your workouts earlier, just so everyone knows. You've been working out for how long now?
How old am I? 20 years. The entire journey has been 20 years.
You used to do Olympic style lifting, right?
Yeah,
when I met you,
I was just transitioning into bodybuilding from Olympic weightlifting. Yes. I was competitive for a little while. Got injured a lot.
How long did you do that for?
Competition probably for about a year, and most of the year I was injured.
What introduced you to that, or why did you start doing that?
CrossFit introduced me to Olympic weightlifting. I liked Olympic weightlifting more than I liked CrossFit. Then I was trying to get away from a boy. So I went, it didn't really help. He ended up following me over there. But I thought to myself, I'm going to take about 3 months or so to just perfect my technique or improve my technique. And the coach, Bob Tucano, told me, have you ever thought about competing? Nope. Okay, you're going to compete next month. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's similar story for me with competitive bodybuilding. Like I always knew I was going to get into it. I just didn't know when. And then when I decided to stop playing football in college, it was December, I remember, and it was getting close to my break.
Did you mean to rhyme that? Did you mean to rhyme that?
I didn't. Subconsciously just do it. And it was like December, and I saw what then became my second mentor in bodybuilding. I saw him at the gym. He's a bodybuilder. So he was talking to me, just small talk, and then he asked me about bodybuilding because I had seen him here and there, throughout the years in the gym. So he always would ask about bodybuilding, and I told him, yeah, I've decided not to play football anymore, and I really want to compete. And he said, well, then do the Ronnie Coleman Classic. I was like, so he said, put your money where your mouth is, but basically.
Yeah.
And it was December, and the show was in May. And I felt like my heart dropped, like, but I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. So he guided me through, I'd say more of like what to expect, not necessarily the training or even the diet per se. That sort of, I just had to figure it out. And this was way back when. So it's like I was just figuring it out. But what he really helped me was more of like what to expect, how to come prepared, and the posing. I feel like that's where I really fell in love. I always loved it, like the posing. Like that always attracted me. Like the more artistic flow of posing. So that's sort of the style he had too. So he would just run me through the ringer of like, we do like 30 minutes to 45 minutes of just posing.
Posing's hard.
Yeah.
People don't understand how hard posing really is.
And like, I just fell in love with it. But yeah, he's just like, do it. I was like, okay. So I ended up getting, and then back then there was only bodybuilding. There was no other classes, nothing. So you would have all these classes stacked with so many competitors.
Really?
Yeah, there was no fitness. There was no physique. There was no nothing. And so like I remember my heavyweight class, and I wasn't even, but because of my height and stuff, that's where I landed. My first show, there were 25 competitors in my class.
Okay.
And I ended up placing 9th, which I walked away super disappointed. But I don't know. I was expecting to win, but I just needed time. I needed more size. But you competed, right? You did.
I did bikini.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Well, I know why I did bikini. I did bikini because we come from Olympic weightlifting. We didn't know what it would look like once we trim it down. Mm-hmm. So we kind of went safe. And the team ended up going with the girl that the queen that was running it. I don't think she had any idea. She was just trying to push me into all the everywhere. In retrospect, after being there and seeing what divisions look like, my body style is not bikini. Now there's wellness.
Yeah.
So I can fit into wellness.
Yeah.
Or I fit into fitness or figure. My problem with figure is that in order to be pro competitive at it, I have to do drugs, and I don't want to. So you're gonna stick with the fitness and.
See, I was on the flip side. Like, I never did it, and then too, my goal was football, and so obviously that's a no-no, especially NCAA. You do that, and then you get in big trouble, and then you really ruin your opportunity to take it further. But I always knew that I would, and when I did, because for me, I always kept it real, and I loved it, and I wanted to win. So at that point though, when I competed, I started really, really getting into bodybuilding. I'd say at 14, and immediately dove into whatever I could to study about steroids. And it was a lot more challenging back then. Before really the internet was sort of around there.
It was around, but it wasn't what it is now.
Right. So it was more of actual textbooks and chemistry and all this stuff, and then magazines and trying to decipher, because even in magazines it was really, really safe. There was no one really talking about it.
Yeah.
So it's just deciphering things, and even in the local bodybuilding scene, they really wouldn't talk about it. And they would always deny it. So it's you'd have to really, really search. But when I decided to compete at that point, I'd had about 7 years already in studying and the anatomy of the body, and as best as I could to understand the chemistry of how things worked. And so yeah, I hopped right away into it. But after my first show that summer, I felt like everything came together for me. That first show was really an eye opener for me. You're oh wow, it was exciting, yet it was oh man, I have a lot of work to do. But that motivated me to really dial everything in. So at that point, I really dialed in the eating along with the drugs, and then from May to August, that whole summer, I went from 190 on stage, and then by the end of August, right around when I was going to go back to the semester at college, 235.
That's a lot of work to put on in such a short period of time.
And then also too, I realized very quickly that I had great genetics, so I didn't have to take a lot. My body just immediately responded. And then after that, I just became my own guinea pig. Really, and just started to mess around with a lot of different methods and finding what worked for me. And then, Mama, you're interrupting the camera. Tana, come on, go over here. We're not gonna do that. Yeah, she's
that was a sigh.
She's she's got an attitude. It was a lot of fun. I was just, as everything I get into, I just get obsessed. I love everything. Anything I do is because I love it, and I want to be the best at it. And so, yeah, it was that. But I did that for competitively 4.5 years. But as soon as I decided to do music and stop, I stopped. Because for me, I'm there was no, it didn't make sense to continue to take that if I'm not competing. And that's the way I saw it, just like before, I wasn't tempted to just I want to be big. I wanted to be big, but there was a purpose,
right.
Because I wanted to get into the sport and I wanted to turn pro. But when things changed and I shifted to music, I just stopped, and I haven't been on ever since. And it's always pretty interesting when people assume that, because it's like, oh god, it's been years since I've touched any of that stuff.
You don't look now like you use it.
No, not these days. But like even before, like I did notice though, I was such a hard gainer up until I started to use all that stuff. When I got off, I still kept training hard.
Yeah, I remember it too.
And
I think that your training partners, the longest they lasted with you was a week before they called it quits.
And you know what? Like I'd say, like my time out here in LA, I would say a little diminished compared to when I was lifting in Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I said, moving out here shifted even more for me because I moved out here for music. So I quickly started to realize like, okay, like my energy needs to be put on music. And so it wasn't so much like I'm hardcore lifting. That's all I think about 24/7. Because even in Texas, when I was doing the band thing and music, I was still pretty like I got up to like 220. Like right now I'm like 178 this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So like like I was saying, like I noticed that my weight, I could manipulate it a whole lot easier. Where before it was so hard for me to gain. But then after that, if I wanted, once I started dropping weight, of course, like obviously I didn't want to look humongous and whatever for music. But every now and then I'd get the itch, and then like my weight would just shoot up again, and I was like, "That's crazy! Like that I can gain weight now, like that." And it's still that for me. Even last year, I kind of let it get out of hand a bit. I got up to like 205, just by eating more. You know?
Yeah, it makes a little difference.
Yeah,
that's how you build.
Yeah, but I always told myself like if I ever got to a point where for health purposes, obviously for men, the older you get, for health purposes, if I felt that it was gonna be healthier, I'd consider it. But honestly, at this point, like I feel the healthiest I've ever been, really. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. We got totally off.
See, this is exactly what I meant when I said if we don't set a narrative, we're just gonna drift.
Yeah, but it's good drifts,
Oh, I don't mind a drift.
Yeah. So we were talking about women.
Yes, we're talking about women. Jesus Christ.
And the role I feel like a hot topic right now with everything that's gone on in the last years with the Me Too movement, and even like this case right now with Johnny Depp. I'm not too familiar about
that. I'm not sure what happened there.
I'm not either to comment, but there's just like a lot of, I think like her making up things or something like that. It's like it seems like just a mess.
Usually.
Yeah. And I just think
you can actually see, like if you want to talk about everything that is happening right now, you can also talk about the crap about the abortion.
That too. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
It's a very complex conversation. I mean, I want to have the right to have abortions, and some people are against it. Now we know that a baby in uterus can feel pain at 12 weeks. They have a heartbeat at what, I think 8 or 5. I don't exactly remember, but I don't know if I'm good. I just don't know. I understand that the conversation was about taking it, removing it from the federal government, which means the federal government has no business dictating. Like it's none of their business. So they're going to leave it to the states, which according to the Constitution, everything was according to the state, and the way we know the government today was not the way it was structured once upon a time when the United States was declared the United States. I guess that if we're talking about that makes sense. If you are somebody who believes in abortion, just don't live in a state that doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
And if you do, goodness, like if Texas doesn't allow abortion, don't move from California to Texas and then cry about the fact that you're going to get an abortion.
Yeah.
That's the idea. I generally believe that forcing anybody to do something against their will doesn't really work.
I just find it also interesting that I also agree, even though like I grew up in Texas and very conservative and religious, every time that subject came up, even as a kid, I remember thinking, having questions like that, like didn't seem complete, you know? And even at home, my parents never really like were objective to it, but they wouldn't promote it, if that makes sense.
Because think about it this way: they're talking about abortions as if, like, why are we not talking more about protection, about stuff like that? I mean, how many situations, like how many pregnancies were avoidable if we, men and women, took more responsibility? So again, would I like to have the option in case? Yes. Would I rather take the precautions to not be in that position? Absolutely. It is what it is, though.
Yeah, I think it's so touchy because then you're talking about potential of a life, right?
Right. So we have a religious component to it. We have a moral component to it. We have a spiritual component to it. Because you can also argue that yes, this is a heartbeat, but a spirit that came here, that chose to be here, chose that life. They chose to be the baby in the womb that doesn't make it out.
That's wild.
Like, right. But you can look at that from the spiritual realm. You can look at it from religious, that everything is sacred and you don't kill anybody and somebody is going to take care of it. You can say that this is unkind, but at the same time, you can go back to spirituality and say their soul chose that route. So
that's true. Like you chose it, it's done.
kinda like you are source energy in a physical body. This is your avatar. You chose to be here. This time frame and this body, you chose to be Agi. So if you chose to be Agi, everything that you experienced, that was a choice.
Right.
So it's just another, like, if it's right or wrong, I don't know. I like to believe in that. That makes me feel in alignment. It's just, again, it's a lot of components. Yeah. How are we going to look at it? I personally believe that there is no right or wrong way to live life. So if there is no right or wrong way to live life, don't tell me what to do. I won't tell you what to do, and let's live happily ever after. If our energies don't match, there is no reason why we'll actually be in each other's lives.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on choice. I do believe in choice. I just feel like people should open their minds, you know, and realize what they say sometimes, because I find it like I've just been very observant these last few years with COVID and all these different things, and seeing how the government has manifested itself in all these things, and then how people are just blindly following. Yet whenever it's like this subject, I'm like, well, where were you guys? Y'all were condemning me for not wearing a mask. Mm-hmm. But now all of a sudden, like,
you have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like,
it's the running joke right now. And the thing is that both, like, every group do their own, like, mental gymnastics. That's what one of my friends calls it, and I think that's a brilliant term. It's the idea of, it's okay when I do it, but not okay when you do it. So you have to get vaccinated, but I don't have to get it. But I want to be able to have the right to have abortion. Like, then why are you forcing me to do something? But then you tell me that I can't force you to do something. It doesn't work. So if I believe my body, my choice, it's my body, my choice across the board. You can't say my body, my choice. I don't want to get vaccinated, but then force somebody to get an abortion or not get an abortion.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Right. I feel that way too. Like, my body, my choice. Like, if I don't want to get vaccinated, or if you do, like, that's what I was like. That really, honestly, that did rub me the wrong way. Like, upset me. Like, if somebody wants to get a vaccine or not, again, it's cool.
Their choice.
Like, yeah, I mean, I thought that's why we live here in this country, like freedom of choice.
Yeah, freedom is kind of the illusion of freedom.
So where do we go from here, though? You know, I feel like a lot of people don't even maybe want to be vocal about it, or what do you think?
well, can you be vocal right now about anything that doesn't align with whatever the agenda, the narrative is? No, you can't, because you will be censored, you will be shut down. Even on Instagram, there are certain things I can't say. Even I cannot even talk about holistic health without my stories going into the shadow ban.
Yeah, I just saw today. Speaking of Texas, they banned, I guess, because the face recognition software.
Okay.
That some filters now in Texas aren't available. They banned them, not necessarily because of the filters, but the they're not called Meta, right? The software that I think they're gonna switch things to give people the option to opt in. But yeah, they banned it. So as of today, I saw a friend of mine post a joke. It's like, why all of a sudden do all of y'all look 20 years older now?
There was a joke also with what's his face, Elon Musk, about if you've seen all those memes about him buying this now and buying this now and buying that now. So there was one about buying Snapchat, removing all the filters. You gotta look the way you look now.
That's crazy. Like, makes me think. No, we were talking about it too. Like they were playing Grand Theft Auto last night. I just started thinking about like the metaverse and all this stuff. Like, man, people are just gonna like, is that really where we're headed? Like, where people like just don't want to live in reality?
How do you know that this is reality?
Exactly. That's a rabbit hole.
That's a whole rabbit hole.
Yo.
But I'm gonna backtrack a little bit, and you said something about people just following the government blindly. So everything right now is a campaign. The vaccine was a campaign.
How so? Like as far as to get it done, or campaign as in like, what do you mean?
It's a marketing campaign. It's being designed and delivered in a very smart, brilliant, even particular way. I think it was Obama's first campaign. He actually won an advertising award for it.
For real?
Yeah. Like, we're talking about how well can you enroll as many people to vote. So how do we make people to do what we want them to do? We repeat it. We talk about it over and over and over. We manipulate data. And you don't even have to say that they're lying. Sometimes they are, but they just need to give it a very particular spin. It's like, why everything right now is racist. Everything is about race. Everything is like against the white man. Everything is about emasculating men or making women disappear. It's just, everything is a campaign.
I have a question for you. Like, here lately, have you noticed any different habits with guys around you, or with everything that's gone on? Have you noticed any different trends?
So for me, it's tricky because my entire life, men have been staring at me from very far away. There are very few that will actually have the balls to come and talk to me. So
why is that?
I don't know. Apparently, I'm very intimidating. That's the feedback. I recently also heard it from several of women that I'm very intimidating. So that's the trend.
Okay.
But I've noticed men retreating in a way. Not with me, just in general.
Like, I did have a friend. She mentioned that not that long ago. How she personally has felt like guys don't come up to her as much, like to ask her out or things like that. And I was like, I wonder if that's because of everything that's been going on the last few years. And
very well could be.
Yeah.
Everything you do, you are going to be prosecuted on it. It's okay if you give a girl a compliment and she's interested. If she's not interested, you're harassing her. So if you don't have a very clear understanding that she is interested, why would you go there?
I don't find it difficult to maneuver these days. Only because I feel like the way I was raised, in the sense of like always respecting women, girls, females in general, yet not putting any or men on a pedestal. And so like my approach has never been like, I feel like a lot of guys just constantly chase girls and that's it. But for me, it's more like just respect and love. And I feel like if I'm being mindful of that, and making sure, like, being mindful of what I say, like not being a dummy, amongst some guys where I hear them talk, they're like, that sentiment is there of like, I need to be more careful what I'm doing and saying, not necessarily because of it being bad, but how things can be taken,
translated.
Yeah, completely out of context, especially these days, man, with like screenshots and all this stuff and screen recordings and all these different things that now are
That sounds tiring. It's like walking on eggshells.
Oh my God. Yeah. I myself have like recently, just for my own sake, because of what I do with my career, like using social media, but it got to a point where I'm like, I want to maneuver in a way that I feel is like I'm not dependent on this stuff like that. If I'm honest, man, for the most part, it just feels so toxic. Not always, not all the time. There's some cool stuff and great stories, but like when people say, "Oh, the internet's wild," I'm like, I don't like that feeling, me personally, And so I've been working to maneuver in a way where I do what I got to do, and I provide like my brand and what I represent, and then that's it. And work on living, and even like in the crowd and in the industry that I've worked in for so long now, since moving to Los Angeles, it really has become like a number on top of your head. What are your followers? Oh, you don't matter, or like you do. And like I got caught up in that for a while, and you start to like, it is toxic to your own self of like, you diminish yourself to this number. And like, I'm not valuable because it's not this or that or whatever. And I was like, wow, I feel like I also too, like I grew up before all of this stuff happened, like, and even as a teenager, to where all that stuff, it really, none of that, what mattered is you as a person,
right,
and what you were doing, and even if you were cool, like, all right, so what,
Almost a year of very, very little. I removed Facebook.
I remember that.
Yeah, I removed Facebook out of my phone. I noticed that in political arguments, I wanted to jump in and put them on the right path, like fix them, because you're being a hypocrite. So I need to show you where you're being a hypocrite. And 2021 for me was really like not my job. I'm going to remove myself from it because it's none of my business. It's not my problem. And the fact that you want to live your life that way and you want to practice those things doesn't mean that I have to. And if I don't acknowledge that, it doesn't have to come into my experience. So I removed myself from that. I barely posted anything, I think, for months and months on Instagram. And that was very liberating.
Yeah. And like I was talking about earlier, like my approach now has been to have fun with it, obviously be purposeful, but then that's it, like not look for any sort of validation, and then detach myself from it. Like, this isn't my life, this is my brand, and taking that out of it, because I feel like for me personally, that's where it's like it was just getting too muddy, And so how I've been maneuvering this year, which isn't easy, I'll admit, because especially in the entertainment world and in the music world, like where they're measuring your metrics, like, well, how many followers you have, how many on Spotify, like what's your engagement, all these different things. But I feel like,
because it's it can be monetized. The more data you have, the better. I have 18 years in online marketing experience, so I understand that. I understand the idea of having the data in order to monetize it, just constantly collect it. But they just want to know that they can resell it.
Yeah. But honestly, like lately, what I've been thinking about, like I've really been thinking a lot about like the younger kids, like the younger generation. I'm like, where's the balance? Where are the people teaching that? Instead of content. to me that's empty. To me that's like a dead end. And then to me, like I said, just because I'm around it so much and I hear it, I constantly see and hear sadness, disappointments, emptiness, and these kids have hundreds of thousands of followers, some of them millions of followers, you know, but all they can think about is engagement. And it's not even about like, hey, I'm succeeding, I'm growing my brand. It's your heart's tied to it, you know, like in the sense of like, that's my validation, where it's not.
Oh, that's a tough sense of worthiness right there.
But that's where I see it at. That's where I see the majority of these kids at. And
well, if you think about it from the standpoint of their soul chose that life experience, does it make you feel better?
no,
Really?
no,
Okay.
because like I feel like at least for me personally, like that's, I think about what I stand for in my music. Like for the longest, I felt like I was coming up empty because I was thinking of myself in that sense, instead of like, I want to help as many people as I can around the world in a positive manner. And so gathering my experiences of what I've gone through and seen, and I think it's always been around, right? It's just now because of technology, now it's like it used to be called the 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
Now everyone has that opportunity
Yes.
to be famous because of the phone, because of social media, because of things going viral. So now that it's so disposable at our hands, I feel like now the young kids are like, it's been taken way far out there where that's the only thing now. The only reason I'm posting now because I want to go viral. The only reason I'm posting is because I want to get more clout or get recognition and all this stuff, instead of just, hey, I'm just having fun. Like I just went here, or I just did this cool video or this cool edit or whatever.
I think people don't have enough fun anyways.
Yeah, gotta have more fun.
Yes.
More fun.
I'm a big advocate for fun having.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what it is.
What do you like to do for fun?
I like going to the gym for fun.
Yeah.
I like random coffee shops. Like good coffee is fun for me. Travel is fun.
Yeah, I want to do that around the world.
Travel is fun. I was just in Solana Beach. Everything about the way everything unfolded was just fun. It was very, let's go to this restaurant and that sounds good, so let's try that. And let's walk on the beach. And let me tell you, the beaches in San Diego are much better than the beaches in LA. I don't even understand how that's possible. But
what makes them better?
The water was warmer. The sand was stunning. Even the way the waves were crushing like on shore, it was just unreal.
Have you been to Hawaii?
No.
Oh my God! Like I've been once, and I want to go again. The beaches out there are amazing, and the water.
That's on the to-go list.
Oh my God! Yes, we for sure need to go.
I was in the seat or like in Solana Beach, wondering to myself, why do I live in LA when this is so close?
Would you ever move?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I'm not attached. I already left life one place and restarted it in another. So I'm thinking to myself, if follow the impulses. If something calls me, go.
Yeah.
No pros and cons, just go. That has been a practice I've been implementing quite a lot. Following the impulses. If all of a sudden I feel that pull to go over there, I'm just going to go over there. And if I have split energy and I don't really know what to choose, I'm not going to go over there.
I felt that too. You know, like this. I think death has a way of doing that to you when it comes really close to you, of giving you a perspective of like, whoa.
Death is the ultimate teacher.
Like this is it. And so, but you know, I've always felt that I've always followed my heart, but where it gave me this whoa moment was in the fact of like, I feel like I was trying too hard. And I feel like I was taking things too serious. And then with the passing of my mother, I thought of her because she was not that, and she didn't raise me to be like that. We always used to have so much fun, speaking of. And so I really attribute this year for me personally as being transformative because of that, of like just letting go of that and just saying, you know what, like if there's these things that I really want to do, and even being like I had this moment of like, this is who I am. I am spiritual. I am about faith. I am about rock and roll too. So this is all me, and to be that, and a human being isn't like one-sided, two-sided. We have many aspects of ourselves that I feel like we should go and explore and go and do, like you said. I think that's yeah.
I'm all about expansion.
Yeah. If you had the opportunity to like know when you would die, would you want to know? No. Yeah, I don't. I say no now, but it's like I don't know.
I think I'll know.
Yeah.
I think before I'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I did have this premonition though in 2020 when I had a lot of family members pass away, and I had this premonition like I was almost like I felt it coming. And then I remember after my aunt passed away that same year, I was like, I just felt it, like there's one more. And I was like, oh. And sure enough, but yeah, there's this, it's crazy. I was watching a lecture by Jordan Peterson some months back about this study that was done with psychedelics, a very early study. I believe it was in the, I may quote this incorrectly, but 50s or 60s, around there. Basically, the point of it was of our mind, and how he compared it almost to like this huge spaceship that all these capabilities,
right?
And if you've ever taken psychedelics, you know what I'm talking about. Like it's like it opens up to you, and then the question of like our understanding is so small,
right,
to what we're actually capable of. So it's like wondering, like the question is, well, why do we have this capability? It's just interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that if everybody would do mushrooms, the world will be a better place.
Yeah,
that's my general belief right now. I'm listening to a book about psychedelics and about all the studies that they've done about on it, and how the government shut it down at some point. And it's proven time and time again to be extremely effective in curing addiction.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, using a drug to cure addiction.
Psilocybin was the study that was done, and I remember it now, and same thing, like that it cured like addictions for some people.
PTSD, depression, mental disorders. Even we're talking even simple things as quitting smoking. Because people had such experiences that all of a sudden they realized smoking seemed kind of silly. Why would I do that? It's just so unimportant compared to everything else.
Yeah, it is.
But set and setting is very, very important.
What?
Set and settings. When it comes to psychedelics, the set and the settings, like setting an intention, setting the setting that you are in, matter. So I guess just like brewing tea and giving it to a bunch of people without them knowing, probably not the best idea.
Right. Yeah.
But maybe talking about it some more. I do feel that there is a level of awakening that is happening. I don't know how it's unfolding. I don't know if everything that is happening right now in the world is part of that. if you think about it, you cannot continue to try and fix something. You have to like tear it down and rebuild. So maybe this is the tearing down. Maybe we're just being very dramatic because we don't remember a different time frame.
Yeah, I agree with that. As far as like more and more people awakening through mushrooms and through these drugs. I myself have gone
I
through
like to call it plant medicine.
yeah.
Not drugs. I don't know. Drugs have such a negative association.
Mm.
Plant medicine, it's medicine.
Yeah.
It's healing.
I'm also convinced, like here lately, like in the philosophies and stuff that I've been studying, I'm like, man, I'm convinced that like I've gone back to restudy like the Bible in a different perspective, and I'm like, man, I'm convinced some of these dudes took some psychedelics, man.
Opium is so big. Actually, 100%. They found a bunch of opium, a bunch of mushrooms, and a bunch of cannabis. And we're talking about cannabis once upon a time, not what it is now. In very holy places in Israel, even where I think Jesus stayed, they found some leftovers of that. So
for real, because like
psychedelics have been around forever.
I didn't have that perspective until like I said, the last 2 years, I feel like I've gone on this spiritual journey with like DMT and mushrooms, and like I've really gone with this sort of almost like exploratory attitude, and like you said, like an intentional attitude every time I've done it. It hasn't been like, let me see what happens. It's been more of like, I'm doing this purposefully, and it every time it's blown me away. And that I didn't have this perspective. So like after having this perspective, one day it hit me. I was like, oh my God, this is wild. I'm like, it would make sense like if they did take something, because like a lot of stuff that they wrote, like it's like stuff that I've seen or things that like your mind opens up to, that makes it, that's like clarity.
Clarity is a big word, yeah. The way I speak right now is not the way I would speak. I would have spoken 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have shifted because of the path that I've taken. And I'm looking at the Bible or religion or God in a whole different light. But I also when I think about God, I don't think about God as a man or a woman, as an entity. I'm thinking about God equal to universal intelligence, God equal to source energy, God equals to me. Like I am God, you are God. This is all one energy. So that makes perfect sense to me. As soon as I detached from the idea that God is an image of one person,
yeah, I don't have
I stopped having resentment towards the idea, or no, not resentment, resistance toward the idea, towards the idea of God.
Yeah, my belief has also changed in regards to God as well. And I remember years ago reading, and several times when people mentioned about having psychedelic trips involving God and God revealing as a woman, I was like, I always found that interesting. So then when I took DMT, I took it quite a few times, like around when all this COVID stuff started happening. And
did you see God? Was she a woman?
I think it was the first 3 or 4 times I did it. It was so intense. And it's like after that, after that, it changed my life in the sense of like, yup, there's definitely something else going on here. And so like there's something with, it wasn't like I had that knowledge, but now after that, like I had that understanding.
Yeah, which are different.
And this 3 or 4 times, God revealed, I saw God in a form of a woman, man. It was wow, like a female, but it wasn't even in the sense of like I don't even know how to describe it because it's not like I was physically seeing a woman. Because in this realm, it's like you could communicate almost telepathically, and it's like you have a knowing already.
We are in the third dimension.
And so yeah, like God revealed as in the form of a female. Mm. And one of those trips, I remember.
You know, any woman that would be hearing that and have some sort of like issues with men-women thing right now happening within her, going to grab onto that and going to tell people like, see. That'll be great.
Oh
like,
my
they will
God.
take everything you just said completely out of context.
Probably. And I think maybe that one trip I did have like this revelation that like I was taken through like my life, mm-hmm. and I was shown every single woman that was part of my life. It was overwhelming, but not bad. But like all the women that have been females that have been in my life, it's like God was showing me all these things. And so for me, that's why like I have had, not because of this trip, but I've always had like this reverence to women. And I can't really explain the reasoning, like, yeah, like how I was raised and all, right? It has something to do with it. But when I had this DMT trip and it just made sense. I don't know how to describe it. Unless you've been in one of those things, you'll know what I'm talking about. But like it made sense in this of my love and respect for women, females. Because I feel like who I am is because of my mother, and it's because of a lot of help and even now, you included, like a lot of friend girls that I have that are very influential to me. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if more people just had, or more guys, males had an opening and respect and yeah, you like what's the word I'm looking for? Like a divine respect. Mm-hmm. I feel like
now, see, that's a powerful concept, because the divine feminine once upon a time was and then diminished. And for a very, very, very long time, women were treated very poorly. And it was very, very intentional because, well, quite often men are afraid of women. Like, men will go to war for women. Half the shit men do is for women. Like, they will live and die.
The Battle of Troy?
Yeah, that's actually a good story. And it's one of many. It's one of many. Like Cleopatra, like they took down empires because of her vagina.
Yeah.
Not really. She was also a brilliant, brilliant woman. But not the point. I digress. The idea was that the feminine was once upon a time celebrated, and at some point, pretty much murdered. And right now, it's a tricky situation, because in one way, in order for men to relearn the love and respect and appreciation for the divine feminine, women have to own it. Men can't convince women.
What do you
women have to own it.
What is that? What do you mean by that? Like, own it. What does that mean?
They have to step into the divine feminine. They have to honor both their masculine and feminine energy, and not try to be men. They have to let go of their pain body, the universal pain body. So we have a universal pain body as people, and then men probably have that too, but women have their own. So right now, the way women show up to me is victims. They're holding on to their pain body. They did this to us, and therefore you have to make it up to us. The thing of the tricky part about that kind of mindset and practice is that this is the universe of attraction. So if I'm going to feel like a victim, I'm going to continue attracting situations and experiences that prove to me that I'm a victim, that keep me in that victim mentality. If I really want to get out of it, I have to heal my victim story and step out of it.
Yeah.
So if like, as long as women will continue screaming, you need to get out of my way in order for me to rise, they will never be able to rise because something is always going to be in their way. This is pure lack of responsibility. Like it's men's fault or somebody else's fault, because if it's not going to be men, it's going to be something else because they're not taking responsibility. They have to let go of their pain body, own that divine feminine, and then they will be able to teach it.
I think I agree. I think if everyone just did that in today's day, like accountability, like own up to your life. Like you're right. Like you're not a victim here. Like in order to move forward, like it's up to oneself. And like I feel like that's how I've been able to really move forward in life. And I can see why, because it's not, we want to blame other people, right?
Look at the government right now. It's constantly pointing fingers at someone. It's Trump's fault. It's the white man's fault. It's police fault. It's women's fault. It's men's fault. It's somebody's fault. But nobody's taking responsibility. Like they're talking about changing the name of a city or a hospital or something Washington because they had slaves. We know. So you really want to hold Black people right now in like hostage to whatever that happened 200 years ago? I don't want to stay stuck in what happened in Auschwitz in the 40s. That's not where I want to be. I don't want to hold anybody responsible for that. I want to remember in order to make sure that it never happens again. But what am I going to do? Erase Germany?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like
they teach everybody how to continue like not taking responsibility and hold on to that victim story. They nourish the crap out of it.
I think if we scale that, like you said, down to like our individual lives, like that's how we can heal. You gotta like accept responsibility for your life and then let go. Why? It's if you just pay attention. I think if you just pay attention to your own life, the moments where you are angry or you hold resentment, life doesn't get easier when you go through those periods. You can be like, well, fuck that guy or fuck that girl and all this stuff and like all whatever. And like I said, like speaking personally, I've lived through that. I've lived through having anger and like you can accomplish a lot using that energy. But it's such a heavy weight. It's such a like burden that it almost like doesn't even matter what you accomplish with that energy because it's like you're tearing your own self down at the same time.
That was one of my my things. So 2021 we said was not my problem. Washing my hands up, not my problem. 2020 was the year that I actually finally managed to pinpoint down surrender and letting go and not wanting to fight anymore. So for the longest time, I was all about action, pave a path, burn down the wall, like burn the house down, tear down the walls. I want that, and I'm gonna get that, and I did, constantly, time and time again. I had a great track record, and every time I was tired, I felt unaccomplished. I felt run down and overwhelmed, and I couldn't get to where I wanted to go. It was so much effort. And then it was COVID and taking everything down, already in the middle of the journey. And there was a moment of, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to attract. I want to be a magnet. I want good things to come to me. And somewhere in the process, I realized this universal law of attraction. I have a friend that is convinced, believe wholeheartedly that bad things happens in threes. So so every time two bad things happen, I'm waiting for the third. Like, trust me, it will come. The last thing you want to ask the universe is what else can go wrong, because you will say, "Hold my beer."
Yeah, for sure.
It is abundantly creative.
I just laugh because I just think of like these influencers and stuff, like using all these buzzwords now. Like manifest. I'm like, I just sometimes want to just.
I know. You can actually tell between the difference, because I've done self-development.
And even here,
self-development. There's a difference between somebody who's doing the work and somebody that is just using the jargon. And you can speak speak transformation until the cows come home. But are you transformation? Are you walking the talk? Can you? Because words don't teach, so you can use all the jargons, and nobody's going to learn a thing from you. But if you live the way, like if you actually practice those ways, you embody those ways, you are the transformation. You are the things you preach. Then people will learn from you.
And then, in my opinion, it's like, look at the fruit of your life. Then, if you really want to, like, okay, are you really? Well, really look at your life. Where are you at? Are you a good person? What's your character like? What are those around you? Are they better because of you? That's where I stand now. I'm like, I don't care about like these buzzwords, and it's become so popular now, right? Like manifesting, because like people are more open to it. Like 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't hear people talking about it.
No,
so
all the generations still look at me like I'm crazy when I talk about this.
In a way, like it's great. Like people are opening up their minds to this and opening up their spirit to it. But it's like, nah, it's not just these words and superficial. It's like, again, accountability. Like you're saying all these things, but it's not like, the universe, I'm gonna manifest a parking spot. And like, it's not just that. You know, for me, it's like the whole of my life. Like, where am I as a whole of my life of what I'm wanting to attract in my life as a whole? And then again, like, what's the fruit of my life? Like, I feel like there's just so many hypocrites now that it's like, it's so many of them that it becomes acceptable. I sometimes I'm like, I'm in disbelief sometimes, where it's like the wrong now is okay.
Yeah.
And being truthful is wrong.
Yes. And
I'm left speechless sometimes. Yet at the same time, though, like I've personally have felt challenged, and that's why I'm maneuvering the way that I do. I really do believe that in order to like really be the best that I can be, like, let me live in truth.
Yeah.
Let me not lie. Let me be mindful of what I'm thinking. Because even in the thoughts, like a lot of the things that we are the narrative, it's not true. But the more we in our own head say, we make it true.
So when you start driving, you were paying attention to everything you were doing. You were paying attention to the road, to the lights, to the signaling, to the turn, your foot on the gas and the brake. If you were, if it wasn't automatic, so you were paying even more attention. How much do you pay attention now? How many times do you leave the house and you're already at work, and how did I get here? So much of what we do is just a program that is running in our head. So to be able to pay attention to everything that is around you, to the thoughts, the automatic thoughts that just kind of pop, that's the power.
Yeah, and that's what real thinking is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like more people need to know about that and be aware of that, and I feel like that's what helped me. Like I feel like I even asked my dad, because my dad, comes from a small village, and so one day I asked him, like, how did you learn all this stuff? And like, did you have a mentor? Because it's not like there were no resources. But what he said really, really gave me insight to like, no, we really do have the answers within if we really want that change. And he just simply said, like, all I knew is like I wanted a better life, and I didn't want to live from the violence and all the stuff that he came from. And he just made the decision, and he's like, I just started paying attention to myself, of what I was thinking and doing, and then just began to change that narrative. He didn't say it necessarily that way, but it blew me away in the sense of like, just paying attention to what you're thinking and what you're doing. Why am I asking questions? That's the work. Why did I just do that? Instead of blowing up or getting frustrated and then like, I'm just going to go have like a cheat meal, or I'm going to have a drink and just forget about it. I need to wind down. Like, no, why did I do that? Why did I overreact like that? And like, that's the real work. Like you said, like, because eventually, right, we want to get to a point where that goodness is also automatic, right? But we don't get to that point without digging.
Yeah. I definitely live in a state of life is good a lot more than I live in a state of I really don't like that.
Because we can.
Yeah.
We can constantly be connected to goodness.
Mhm.
But that's where that's where I feel like I've been really challenging myself here lately of being aware, like I want to constantly live connected to God, goodness. So if there's a moment of distortion, be aware of that instead of like you said, the automatic pilot stuff of like, oh my God, I just feel frustrated. I'm just like, whatever. No, like I have the power right now to choose. I can, and that's the thing, that's not true that like I have to choose to feel bad. You know, like it may be easy to think that when you feel like shit, but it's the same energy. You can still choose positivity instead of that negative thing.
Right. Sometimes though, the like you do get momentum. Like when you get on that wave, when you ride the wave of happy thoughts and good things happening, it's really really easy to ride it. And it's the same thing. Like when you're going downhill, and things are bad. So just like sometimes instead of trying to fight it, let it pass, let it through, get it out. And get it out, because then all that pent up energy is not staying trapped in you and coming back at another day. There's a lot of power in also releasing negative emotions, and recognizing them is also part of the power, because okay, I understand that I feel bad, and right now if you recognize the momentum is too, that's okay. You're gonna go to sleep, tomorrow's a new day. Like you. Once you sleep and tomorrow it's a new day, when you wake up, if you pick that up again, then it's on you.
I believe it's always on you. I really do.
Yeah, you can fight the thing. I've just been in the point of no resistance. So if I'm stuck all of a sudden in some sort of downhill,
because even like I look at people who live through some horrible things, like you talk about, you know, everything that happened in Germany, and you talk about slavery and other people like wrongfully jailed, horrible things, yet they maintained such peace, right? So I'm like, that's where I look at, like, yes, it is possible. Yes, it is, constantly connected to goodness, to choose, even in the worst external situation, to still choose goodness.
That is also bad.
And so I think that's amazing.
I don't know if you've seen, I posted a photo of a ring that had something written in Hebrew on it the other day on Instagram. Somebody forgot it where I work, and somebody told me about it, and I didn't pay attention, and then somebody brought it to me. Like the universe was like, look at it. And the ring had its silver ring, and on it in Hebrew engraved, that is well shall pass. And I thought to myself, isn't that a very nice message?
Yeah, right. Balance. Like not to allow the two highs or the two lows.
I say when you're in the really really high, like be on that high. But when you're on the low, don't beat up on yourself, because that is what shall pass. Like how if you won't get to the low, how would you know that the high is that high?
I think what that means to me, as far as like the high being too high, in the sense of like forgetting all the things of the good things and the good habits that got you to that point. Because I feel like, for me, that's what I mean by balance, you know, where the low, like, no need to beat myself up. Like, if I'm low, okay, like, process it, let it go. Yet at the same time, when I'm up here, have the humbleness to say, like, hey, like, I'm grateful, but this could all go away as well. So
what I hear you say is gratitude and appreciation.
Yeah.
What if you can get, or now my question is, can you practice gratitude and appreciation, not from this space of it might go away, just for the fact that it's there? Because of course it can go away. But can you appreciate it without worrying about, like, without having the other thought in the back of your mind? Can you just appreciate it?
I pause because you can. I feel like what I meant more was what you said. It's gonna pass. like just appreciate it. And just as like it's a bad, like 2020 for me was extremely challenging. Probably at this point one of the most challenging emotional times of my life. Yet at the same time it was such a beautiful. There were a lot of beautiful moments, and I feel like because I was connected to God and goodness, where I didn't wallow, you know, where as opposed like also in different times of having success, not letting it get to my head, right? I feel like that's more what I meant. Like if we have like an extreme or we have a long stretch of success of like just.
So are we talking about staying rooted in who I am regardless of what is happening?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Regardless of it's up or down, rooted in oneself.
Okay.
And even myself, I've been reading a new book today. Really diving. I feel like I've been doing this sort of therapy on myself. Like it's pretty neat though. Like it gives you like this test to figure out where you're at and as far as these certain things and like graphing. It was very revealing to me, and it was right on point. I'll show you, but it was very revealing because it was like it was right on point for me. Of like for me, accomplishment is an area that now I'm consciously working on because I feel like that's where I gathered a lot of validation for my life that I needed to accomplish, that I needed to have these awards, that I needed to have this validation that when I didn't have it, it really would bring me down. It crashed me down. And so, again, that balance of like, no, detachment, like,
let it go.
Yeah. Who I am is not on the basis of what I do, but it's just being, you know? So, yeah.
I was part of a group that was constantly telling you are your results. And I remember 2 years later where I was hanging out with the same group of people and somebody said that and I'm kind of like, screw that. I am not my results. You're talking, no. Because they were talking about what you accomplished. So it's kind of, to me, it was equivalent to how many followers you have, how much money do you have in the bank. If you've done A, B, C of what society tells you to do, that will be the results. But how are we measuring those results? So
it's exhausting.
Yeah, I want none of that. I want to have fun and I want to appreciate more. Appreciation is such a fun feeling. Yeah. You ask me what's fun? Appreciating is fun. Today, I had to go to a client's restaurant in Pacific Palisades. So obviously I took Topanga because A was the shortest route and also the scenic route. So that is always my preferred route. Right now, when you go down Topanga, there are much of pink flowers all over the sides of the mountain, and I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing those pink flowers.
Yeah.
And then when you get through the canyon to the ocean was remarkably blue and calm. And I took so much pleasure from appreciating the flowers and appreciating the ocean and driving on PCH. It was just so much fun.
Yeah.
So right now I can have fun almost anywhere with anything as long as I'm paying attention.
I feel like that's where everyone should know that they can be. And I feel like that's where I was getting at, that you can always choose to be happy. You can choose that because you are enough. I wrote it down somewhere, this quote, but it's like you don't have to feel like you're of your humanity. Like you are deserving. There is no explanation for you being, you know. And I feel like if everyone just tapped into that daily and constantly reminded themselves of that daily, at least it would help to like bring you back from whatever distortion you're feeling. Like, hey, no, like
it's a practice.
It is a practice
because we are talking about understanding because we can intellectually know that we're worthy. Kind of like you said, I knew that before, but now I understand it.
Yeah.
So it's rewiring the brain and learning to know that you don't have to perform
Right.
to prove your worthiness.
Yeah. And that's where the surrenders comes from. And that's where I'm excited too. And I feel like that's why this year for me, I really seen my life, not just musically, but everything. And that's really what excites me more than honestly musically.
So what has been your 2022 so far theme for the year?
Transformation.
Okay.
Everything about what I've been doing has been transformative in such a exponential and powerful way, and most of it as of right now has been in private. Most of it no one knows about, and that to me feels good because I'm doing the most important work on myself, which everyone should do on themselves without the need of having to share it with the world to get validation, just because like you're doing it for you. You're doing it to live a great life and be happy and be peaceful, so that those around you can be better as well. Those that you love can benefit from you, you know? And so that's what's exciting. And I feel like, speaking of awakening, like I feel like that's constant theme in my life, constantly, which should be for everyone. Constant evolution of growth. But yeah, very transformative.
In a way, you don't know if it can very well be that everybody is on some sort of expansion and growth. And because I mentored self-development and transformation, and one of the things I had to remind myself several times, when you look at a room full of 200 people, everybody start where they're at.
Right.
So their transformation and growth can be is probably even in a very, very different place than yours or mine.
Absolutely. Yet it's still, everyone should be open to that. Because, you know, and that's what I mean. Like, what my life has nothing to do with someone else's, but to be open to that, to evolve. Mm-hmm. And I see sometimes too, just looking at my hometown, right? And then maybe people who come from maybe smaller cities or towns, you know, where things is like, oh, well, that's it, you know? Instead of like, and it's not even about the materialistic thing or about moving somewhere else. No, but
no, because it happens here too.
Yeah, expanding your life. And no, you're not done learning. You're not done growing. That's the beauty of this life. And it's like, once I've experienced like this death so close to me, it's like, man, no, like, oh man, it's like right now it even makes my heart race. Like, this could be all done for me today. Did I do everything I really wanted to do? Did I live my life how I really wanted to live? And that's where like I feel like I've gained that perspective now every morning, where I'm like, I want to live how I feel is correct for me.
You should.
And having that perspective, I feel like if you just remember, like, hey, this is all gonna end. This is all gonna be over
at some point.
Yeah. So make the best out of it, you know, every day, and have fun.
Have fun. That has been my 2022.
Yeah.
We went from understanding surrender and letting go, because I've been trying to figure out surrender for 2 years.
Yeah.
Before I actually, like, it dawned on me, like, that's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. That's how I do it. So we went 2 years, 5 years of vulnerability, to trust and surrender, to finally understanding trust and surrender, to not my problem, to final appreciation. And I can't, like, I have a friend who asked me, invite me to some party. And I told her I physically cannot be in that space. It's the same people and doing the same things, talking about the same stuff. I feel like I'm suffocated, and I want deeper. I want deeper. I want more.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna apologize about it, and I'm not gonna
that's you.
Sugarcoat it. Yeah.
And
I was never very good at sugarcoating and hiding and not speaking, not saying what I want to say. So I do what I want.
Yeah.
I always be doing what I want. My mom will vouch.
I think that's a great ending point. That's another great conversation. Have fun, you know, open your mind, be yourself, love yourself, have fun.
Be worthy. You are.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being on again.
Anytime.
We're out. We're out this bitch.
Peace out.
Ha!